Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host this week being Mike Service, and we are coming to you from an incredible location out here in Ravello, Italy, and our guest this week is Andrew Mariani. Andrew is someone who's been close to the Power Monkey community for a number of years, having been to our camp a few times, as well as our intensives and other clinics. I'm also lucky enough to have called Andrew a roommate of mine in New York City over the years. He knows us all very, very well, and he is one of the top trainers in New York City. He is incredibly educated in the fitness space. He was a collegiate athlete and moved into fitness shortly after his collegiate career was over. And he's someone that knows the scene within New York inside and out, coaching at a bunch of different spaces, both digitally as well as in person. We go into what the fitness landscape is looking like in New York and what we anticipate it looking like in the future, as well as what the future holds for Andrew, as well as many of the fitness trainers within that community. We also talk a little bit about what Power Monkey and what the in-person landscape looks like for him, and how he has been able to translate and transfer a lot of his personal clients to us with Power Monkey. We love Andrew. He has a ton of knowledge, and plus he's from New Jersey like me, so I always like having more people who come from my neck of the woods on the podcast, and we hope you enjoy this one. All right, podcast today, a very special episode, location-wise and guest-wise. We are actually in one of the most beautiful places we've ever traveled to, out in Ravello, Italy, for Power Monkey wedding of sorts, and we have one of our longtime Power Monkey confidants and attendees, and we just go way back from the Jersey days. Andrew Mariani here with us today. How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Obviously, first time in Italy. First time on a podcast. Long time listener.
Oh,
first time, long time.
So, first time in Italy. Let's start there because you're as Italian American as it gets, but this is the first time you've actually been in homeland. What are your thoughts so far? How do you like it?
I feel automatically like I can speak the native tongue.
And you know zero words.
Zero words.
Yeah. But you're confident about the lack of Italian that you have. Like, you go in full gusto with words that make no sense.
It just kind of overcomes you.
Gestures.
Yeah, as soon as I came off the plane, olive oil smell in the nose, immediately cinque due, I can say pretty much anything, have a full conversation, so.
I mean, you were here 2 days, and Maria and I were walking down the street, and some guy goes, "Hey, your friend's Andrew." We went, "Really?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's one of my clients. He bought some plates from me.
Yeah.
And then
I got
proceeded
sold.
to ask us if we were wealthy people from New York to buy plates from him as well.
Oh, this is the guy who
Oh,
sold this.
so
also, Dave
in the same way that you are a Plaka Mike, Andrew's becoming
he's
Ravello, Italy.
That's a way bigger title
because
than
you're just
Plaka
spending
Mike.
money like nonstop in the city.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you got it like that, I love the fun coupons, those little blue dollars and everything.
Yeah, you gotta save what you can. So, Italy has been great. We've had an amazing time out here. Unfortunately, it's coming to an end. You have to go back to New York, New Jersey, where you are a trainer to quite a few Power Monkey people. And essentially, and this is what I wanted to kind of jump into, because you've created a list of clients who love you and who really, not just, they respect the perspective that you have on training, and it's turned into people that you've referred to Power Monkey. You've turned into lifelong Power Monkey attendees and a part of what we're doing moving forward. And a lot of that, especially what's happened over the last 12 to 18 months, is because of you. And I'm curious, with just a perspective on working with clients, we were mentioning this a little bit off the air, but creating relationships with your clients, how important is that to you, rather than just creating a plan and having them kind of walk through it? How do you envision that client relationship working aside from just the training, and why do you think that other component is so important?
So the best way we can get into this to start this is, I've been in training now, we're going to be coming up on, believe it or not, 9 years when we get to November, and I've had the chance to have coaches, whether they were like interns under me, like CrossFit coaches, whatever the case may be, and I found out pretty early on that the relationship aspect was really important. So what I used to say is, a great coach will develop a skill, right, execute the program, get you to your goal, but the best coach, or a better coach than a good coach or a great coach, would be able to do that while making you feel like you're just sitting there working with your friend, right? And so, because you can't replace the feeling aspect, right? The feeling of accomplishment, I learned how to get a muscle up, is amazing, and it's very gratifying, but then the feeling of being able to do that and being like, holy shit, my buddy Dave taught me how to do that, and like afterwards we got a coffee, right? It creates a little bit more of a special element. This is an example of that, right? Like, so I have a chance to work with the clients who got married here, like you guys did, and you know, it speaks volumes to them, but it's also pretty cool to be like, I'm a trainer, we work together, but at the same time, he still felt the need to bring me to the wedding because you spend a lot of time together. We developed a relationship together. We helped, you know, overcome goals, get to goals, but also do it in a way that it's like, I could do this with somebody else, but I could also just do this with my friend. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important component of it, the human connection component, and especially, you know, recent times considered, coming out of a pandemic, we were all losing a lot of that human connection, that human component of things. And so now it makes it that much more special, gratifying, unique when you get to spend that one-on-one time in person for the most part, but every now and then, sure, remote, but you get to spend and you have that relationship with them that really solidifies, again, going back to that word of connection, that human connection. So I think it's something that can never be replaced. Obviously, we'll probably talk about this, but you know, things are moving in a direction too from a scalability standpoint that will have to be online in some presence, but you know, you'll never ever be able to get the same thing without being in front of somebody, look at them, touch, feel that person. You know, it just provides something that is unlike anything else, I think. And the more we all are online, there creates a greater gap of like who actually has those interpersonal skills and who actually wants to do those kinds of things, and those people who would rather stay back behind the screen, you know. And I'll always definitely want to keep at least half my business in the in-person forefront in some aspect, whether it's meetings, in-person clients, whatever the case may be. And I think what you guys do at camp or the retreats in Greece, like, that's amazing and it's fun, but like that must be done in person. And if you haven't done it, go to it. Anybody who has done it, they keep going back for that reason. They want to touch, feel, taste everything that's going on there.
Yeah, I think me and Mike, it's one of the reasons why we continue to do our courses so much, because, you know, we both do a lot of online programming, or working so much on the digital side, but where we feel like we make the biggest impact is when we do have that ability to speak with someone and give them changes and programs. And Mike, from your perspective, I mean, you're one of the most well-received, well-liked people with it. Not even just within Power Monkey. I think just everyone loves you, right? Or Mike, both you guys are just very personable. But how important is that to you as well, from building off of what Andrew was saying? Would you feel like that's something important to you when you're creating your programs or dealing with clients?
Yeah, definitely. Like Andrew was saying, it's so much more special when you can have somebody that you're training and spending all this time with. We talked about the other day, blurring that boundary. So not having like, I'm your trainer, you're my client, I'm your coach, you're my athlete, but mixing that, like, yeah, we've become friends, family. And I think, Dave, you're probably just like me and Andrew, I think you're the same. If we listed, you know, our 5 most frequently spoken to friends or seen friends, probably go, at some point they were a client of mine, or they were somebody I was coaching or working with. And I think, the most beloved, just professionals in general that work with people, that's what happens. Who you spend your time with, you end up being closest with, and then you have these relationships, and they love you because you love them. And that's like, it's a vibe that you can't completely have when you're so distant in a remote setting. But at the same time, and you probably experience this too, once you've met somebody, or if you have a really good remote relationship with them, coaching and training, when you do finally meet them or when you have time together, you feel like you've been best friends for years. And that comes with, I think, just skills of learning what questions to ask, how to be plugged in. It's fun, you know. That's one of the cool things with technology now, is to be able to just send a text message at any point to anybody to check in on them, and they immediately know that you're thinking of them. So like, that thoughtfulness is something. I'm always happy when somebody randomly checks in on me and think, oh wow, they were thinking about me. And then the same goes back the other way. So there is a mixture that you can get with both, and they feed off of each other.
You do that better than anybody.
I was about to say,
checking in.
Mike is, every now and then he sends like the praying hands emoji or whatever. You know, it's just like out of nowhere.
Love you, thinking about you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do that. You could sit all day and just do that throughout your full Rolodex. But interpersonal skills, right? Being able to, deal with someone who's coming off of a bad day at work or something that's going on at home, and you're going to be becoming a little bit of a therapist as well as a trainer. those are skills that can be learned, but from your experience, is that something that's just innate in you, or did you have to do something in the same way that you're getting accreditation to become a better trainer? Are you doing anything to become a better person who can deal with another person emotionally? Are you doing anything in that sense as well?
So that's an awesome question. I'm happy you asked that. So in 2021, you know, I've done a lot of certification. That's how I met you, right? Like, so in a way that we've kind of exemplified that relationship. Like, Dave became somebody who still is a mentor in a lot of ways, as well as Mike. Learn from these guys, continue to learn from them, but then, you know, develop a friendship. And there's still that, like, hey, I can still have a lot to learn from you. But yeah, in 2021, I went to my first fitness business conference. It was a small group. A friend of mine who became a friend now, Luca Hosevar, he owns a gym out in Seattle. It's called Vigor Grounds. He also owns one in Slovenia. Phenomenal coach, awesome dude. He has a million good things to say on Instagram, everywhere else in the world. He's even writing a book. But went to this conference, and what you find out is exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, you can't replace the interpersonal aspect of things, and that then led me to go to his event at the end of 2021, and this is the most impactful part. So he had a bunch of people who I look up to in the fitness industry. He had, you know, just to name drop a bunch of dudes who were speaking. Jay Ferrugia, you had the Daily Kelsey, she was there. You had Mark Magno, who owns all the anatomy gyms there, and all these guys had amazing things to say. But one of the biggest takeaways, and they all kind of had this message, and you know, some use different words than others, but it was like, you always want to be that person in somebody's group who's a connector. And that means, like, hey man, you know, it's not like calling your Uncle Dino, like, oh, I need a car. You know, like, that's an important thing, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. Do you know anybody in Kentucky who could, you know, help me find a gym? I'm looking for somebody who does, like, gymnastics. Who would that be? And you're like, oh yeah, I got a guy, like, and it's from a client who used to do gymnastics there years ago, something like that. So it's like learning the importance of always being that connected person is huge. So then from that point, I did a certification that had nothing really to do with fitness, although it was taught by a fitness guy, Coach Brett Bartholomew. He wrote the book Conscious Coaching. So he does this apprenticeship. And within the apprenticeship, I did probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in a certification. He forced us for 2 days, and it wasn't at a gym or anything like that. It was in an Airbnb to do improv skills and improv games. And I don't have a problem speaking. I've been fortunate enough to do stuff on camera, and I feel pretty comfortable there, but that's in my wheelhouse. That's usually workout and fitness related. Mm-hmm. But you're meeting strangers. There was a fire captain from Oakland. There was, you know, a university worker from the University of Missouri there who was, you know, in the tech department. So there's relevance to this the whole time. And we're sitting there talking, doing these improv games. Like, all right, Andrew, come up. Dave, come up. So Dave is going to be your kid. You're at an amusement park. And you can only talk to Dave in the form of questions. You can't use the word what, and it has to be three words or less. I was like, I can't play. I can't. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to say? Mm-hmm. And, you know, you're working through that game, and Brett, like, was great. He loved it. But somehow you end up, the words come out, and you start playing this game, and you get better at learning how to listen, right? Like, this is something my mom used to say, two ears, one mouth. Learn how to listen, learn how to read, like, the body language, stuff that maybe you don't get online, but you develop it in person, and then maybe it's like, wow, I can kind of picture what Mike was looking like when he sent me that emoji, you know, that text. So that's one of those, going to conferences like that, huge, because it's a networking event in and of itself, just like Power Monkey. But then, in addition to that, what those speakers have to say, they all come back to the same thing. It's all about the relationship they built, and then I'll never forget that thing that Jay Ferrugia said about, like, you always want to be that connector. Not like you can name drop, but just be like, I have a relationship with Dave. Dave can help Dominic with X. I have a relationship with Mike. Mike can help Michael with X. You know, and I think that's the one reason why we're all sitting here on a couch in Ravello at a client's wedding, a mutual client's wedding. Mm-hmm. So those are, I couldn't recommend those specific courses enough, but I mean, any fitness business event. I mean, my buddy Kenny, you've done this, you know Kenny, you guys know Kenny, he's doing an event that's just like this, but, you know, in a New York scale. He's doing the Strong New York event. It's going to be all networking, you know, and that's what it is. And I think that's what it comes down to, is sharpening that axe of interpersonal ability, getting out there, meeting people, doing something different than just being on the floor. Because being on the floor is important, but, like, that's cursory. You need to, that's baseline. You know, what are you doing next to level up and develop that further relationship with the person in front of you, the people around you?
Mm-hmm. I love that, and I find it really interesting. I always said that I'm more of a planner. Like, I'm someone that, like, I hate improv. Like, Sadie's, circus performer on the fly, she can figure things out, she's a choreographer. And I'm like, I'm not that. Like, I need to have a plan. I need to get it all in place for me to be able to feel comfortable with it. But I can see how those skills are critical when it comes to being able to deal with people that are new to you or being in a setting that is completely foreign. And I think you're right that having that ability will allow you to tackle things a little bit more on the fly when they come about. My coach, and I'm curious from your perspective too, is if there's anyone else in your lives that impacted you in terms of, I know Mike, you had a really impactful coach growing up, but somebody that was able to do that for you growing up. I had so many coaches growing up, and the last coach that I had was essentially like able to like read my mind, right? I would come into the gym, I didn't say a word, right? And he was able to amend the training plan for that day according to just how the energy was coming off. I could tell you're a little off today. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you got something else on your mind, and he was able to make an adjustment that was just according to how maybe he asked me one question. You could just change everything according to that. I always felt like I didn't have that ability as a coach to be able to read someone that well and that deeply. Most of the time you think coaches just create like a plan, especially in a team setting. Create a plan, we're all doing this. It doesn't work that way. You have to create something according to each individual. And to me, it's like, that's such a high level coaching skill that I think it goes in line with what you're talking about. It's not just creating the plan, it's being able to individualize it on the way that's emotional as well as physical. And have you guys had mentors in that way that have been able to kind of help, not maybe Jay is that one from a lecture, but someone that was impactful for you in terms of on the actual training side that kind of helped you develop as an athlete as well?
Yeah, I mean, what Dave is saying about his coach doing that, I definitely experienced that with my coach growing up. Like, be in the gym, just not looking very good, immediately different exercises. Like, we're doing this now, and it's better. And I didn't maybe think about that so much until now, but I have so much fun coaching like that now. So I have, like, usually, let's say, like, we just came from Crete, where we have small groups. I have my loose, I know we're going to do weightlifting. And then it's within like that first 5 minutes of talking to the group of like, okay, here's what the group generally needs. And then let's evolve through the session. And I don't do every, let's say, personal training session like that, but I think the ability to do that, to read your small group, to read your the person that you're working with and adapt and grow with them shows flexibility, but empathy to say like, this is what they need because I'm really reading them. And for Dave, like he is the planner. Like, this is the plan. Here's the things we're going through. But even seeing you in Crete the last years, where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna go with a little bit more. And it's there because like coaching for all of us and training, we all have years of reference points. We have every avatar in our mind of every type of client, every type of movement, every type of progression. But how aware are we of the person that's right in front of us, and like how much are we in the moment with that person to make the necessary adjustments? And going back to Dave's question about a coach, my coach that I've trained with my whole life, Lou, another Italian, something about the Italians.
The best.
He would. He was like a father, and we would fight and yell at each other and get super pissed. But at the same time, he knew when there was an exercise that was no good for me, and he'd change it. And because he knew me, and that's right. What I think as teachers, as coaches, as friends, you want to know the person that you're working with and be able to offer the most value to them because they're valuable to you.
I think you just nailed that though, right? Like that's the summation right there. That's what a friend does, right? Like a friend does, like if you're like, all right, we're gonna go to dinner at this Mexican spot, like, oh, Susie can't eat Mexican. All right, fuck it, we're all still going to get Mexican. No, that's not what a friend does. Like, you change it, and you're like, all right, let's compromise. We'll get Italian or something, whatever it is. So by strengthening that friend relationship with your client of being able to show the adjustment and the empathy piece on the side, that strengthens the relationship. That's the kind of stuff that like creates the long-lasting aspect of a human connection with who was a client. And this is like my favorite quote. And I learned this year after now from 2021 going to some of these outside of like on the floor fitness stuff, but it's like and you said kind of this before, your friends will be last to become your clients, but your clients will be the first to become your friends, right? So this was no more true than when I just had two clients who I was very close with, They were with me for 2 years, multiple days a week, like 3 to 5 days a week, and they had just moved out of New York City. And I was actually like, damn, I was like, I'm more sad about this than one of my best friends growing up moved from New Jersey to Texas. Because it was like, oh, whatever, I'll just go visit them in Texas. But it's like, damn, I was used to seeing these guys every day. I'd see them at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever it is, when they really didn't want to be there, but somehow they showed up because we owed it to each other and we wanted to be around each other. And if this is the time we got a chance to be around each other, that's great. And, you know, I believe in preparation as well. I had a game plan for them. We had a protocol. We had a program we were following. But if that day they came in and they're like, Andrew, I want to talk with you for like 5 minutes before we do anything. Like, can we just sit down, have a coffee and talk, and then we'll get into things? Cool, we'll do that. I mean, one of my clients she's a very different spectrum than the guys and girls who you've met who go to Power Monkey Camp. Not that she couldn't go, but she's 74-year-old. I only see her on Zoom, and she lives in Rhode Island, and she's a mother of one of my long-standing clients. And I never have a game plan for her. I was referred to her by her daughter because she had sciatica, and I worked with her daughter with sciatica. We never have a game plan, and she goes to physical therapy, does whatever she does, and every week it's something different. We see her once a week. She's like, so I was riding in the car, and my back's stiff. What do you think we should do about that? And that's how the session will start, and like and every day it's different. My foot was cramping every time I walk up 3 steps. Once I get to the second step, I'm good. The third step, it hurts. What should we do about that? So every week, like, you know, you have to make those halftime adjustments. In that case, it's a game planning adjustment from the jump, but. Yeah, I mean, I think showing the empathy and having the coaches like Coach Lou and you know, your coach being able to read that, like, that's the human piece, and that's what we're talking about here today. You know, is being able to show that you care in a way that's outside of just getting somebody to their goals.
Love this conversation. I think it's really important for not only trainers out there but also clients to kind of figure out best way to approach a good relationship with a trainer. The digital side of things, because the digital side of things clearly already has an enormous foothold in the training world. Pandemic completely upended in-person training for most of us and pushed everything more into the digital side. Moving forward, it seems like there'll be some form of combination between the two. How do you envision, because I know you're putting a little more emphasis on the digital side as well, from your perspective, how do you see the bounce back and forth between doing digital fitness and still having that sense of how the in-person stuff will play along with it?
So I think what it comes down to, and this is what I've been working on with, I actually have a coach who's helping me do this, finding your like ideal client avatar, right? So I love coaching the stuff that you guys have taught me, and working with clients like Dominic and going through gymnastics skills. That's fun. That's great. I also love my clients who are postpartum, in between 35 and 45, want to lose weight and don't have more than an hour to give you each day. So, you know, and recognizing that, like, I, for whatever reason, have developed a relationship with those moms, those women, and I seem to gather most of my clientele there. So once you've identified your ideal client avatar, it's then, you know, being able to relate to them. So it's a relatability. I have never had a child. I've never been pregnant, but you know, nonetheless, I've had a chance to work with a lot of those women and get to kind of see their struggles and see them come in and be like, oh, I feel like shit today, or like my kid's a pain in the ass today. Hey, can I bring my kid to a session today? Hey, we're going to do a Zoom session instead today. My kids may be in the room. Is that cool? And being able to like have the, you know, ability to speak to their children via camera or whatever, and like, you know, make it fun for them, but also at the same time beneficial for the client. So I think, number one, figure out who you're trying to speak to and be specific about it. And then once you're specific about who you're trying to speak to, you know, specifically Olympic weightlifters, whatever it is you might be doing strength training, but specifically speak to that person. And then if you do have the opportunity to meet this person you've probably been communicating with mostly online, or this group of people, they kind of know what to expect and they're excited to see you because you're like, wow, you've done a great job relating to me via online alone, exclusively. Or vice versa. I've had people who were like done in person and then we had to go online for logistic reasons, whatever it might be. And they're like, I trust that he knows how to relate to me because he's done it in person, so he'll find a way to do it online. And I think that's been the hardest thing, but also the best thing too, because I want to use those skills. I'm also the type of person who thinks like, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I want to be able to use like the gymnastics and the weightlifting stuff that I've learned from both of you and continue to learn. But also at the same time, maybe that's what I do exclusively in person, and maybe that's a smaller group. but I can maybe touch and reach a larger group of folks with the advent of online training by identifying that client avatar that I can really speak to and relate to. And sometimes it's not the group that you thought it would be.
Sure. Yeah.
I think what you said that makes a lot of sense though, and why people would trust you is you have the experience of refining and developing your craft and finding these target groups that you really work well with, and then being able and willing to try to scale that to meet more people. And I think where like digital fitness sometimes loses its authenticity or its genuineness is when people don't have the background of working with people. And it's like, we're just going to make something. It's a great idea. It looks cool. Maybe it even works, but we're just going to like mass produce it and put it out there. And there's no relatability. There's no trust. There's not this, blood, sweat, and tears that goes into building one-on-one relationships, small group relationships, like community relationships, and then taking that trust that people look at and see. Like, why do a lot of people go to certain gyms? Because they've heard that they were good from others. Maybe they see a cool gym and then they go in, but that's not as valuable as, we've all been in gyms that look horrible and have the coolest members, the biggest
and
membership.
completely vice versa.
And
The
gyms
best
that
gyms
look
in the
amazing.
world that look great.
Dave and I have a friend in Israel who they had a CrossFit gym on the second floor of a fabricating company that was like 2 meters wide and about 40 meters deep, and they had like 300 members going in and out of there all day long. Wow. No AC, no fans, not even enough equipment, just because it was so small they couldn't store it. Their community was amazing. We were there 2 weekends in a row doing in-person courses and workshops with like their whole membership, because they believed in their coaches and their owners that wanted them to experience us, which I think a lot of your clients transfer that. Like, they want their friends to experience you. And then, when the time comes to make things, cool and flashy and sexy and bigger, you can. But if you're not willing to start smaller and do all the right things at a small scale, then big scale won't work. Right. In my opinion.
No, 100%.
So, long term, this all sounds great as like 20-something coming out of college, fit as hell, you look great, sexy dudes, in a city that, has tons of people that want to be fit, like New York City. It's kind of the hub for being able to have tons of clientele that can hit every demographic, right?
Yeah.
You basically have everything you need, right? You have a demographic and you have a clientele. There are plenty of people that can fill those slots. You reach a point, maybe you get a little bit older, maybe you get in a relationship, maybe you have kids, maybe you put in a couple of LBs, maybe you're not training as hard into your 40s and your 50s and beyond. Do you think that this is a sustainable lifestyle? Is it something that can grow? Or do you think that there's a lifespan to it that's short because it requires you to be a certain person to be able to deliver that message? Or do you think you could be doing this in your 60s and have the same success? I'm curious kind of what a pivot looks like later down the road for someone that's in fitness in the way that you are.
That's something that drives my decision making towards doing more online and developing the client avatar thing a ton. That's something I definitely was thinking about. There's a ton of those external pressures, and all of them are what you're talking about. And maybe I shouldn't say pressures, but when you get into a relationship, if your significant other is or isn't in the industry, they're going to want to spend more time with you. They're going to want to develop a life with you. They're going to maybe even want to put down roots, maybe multiple roots, but like somewhere or multiple places. And what are you going to do to kind of develop that relationship while still honoring your passion, which is going to be fitness? And for me, I will always plan to be active. I will always want to be able to continue to challenge myself and continue to be in shape. That is something I want to do. So hopefully in my 60s, I am doing this. Will I be squatting 400 pounds in my 60s? I don't know. That'd be cool. What do you think?
I think you will.
Okay, cool. So if Mike does, then it's going to happen. So, but that would be very cool. And that's, I want to stay active in that way for myself personally. Now, I will admit, I never want to stop training, but minimization of my floor hours. And that's kind of what this online thing is. I want to, from a business standpoint, drive it home to that group that I can appeal to, that I can relate to, that I can service, but also still maybe have some of those higher skill or specialty sessions. And there's nothing to say you can't do that when you're older, especially if you're going to do it at a minimized amount of time. right? If anything, maybe that garners a higher monetary value. But also, I've heard this example before, maybe you guys have too, and I think this is true. Take your accountant or your mechanic if you have a car, like, chances are you're not going to like the 20-year-old accountant who just got his CPA degree from, wherever, or, Joe Schmo who's like, yeah, I just decided I went to Votech and I want to like open up a shop, and somebody gave me some money to open up a shop. Like, you want to go to the dude who's like, I've been working on cars for 50 years. I still can't get the grease out from underneath my fingernails. I live this shit. Or like the accountant who's like, I've done this for businesses. I've done this for families. I've done this for however many years. So I think in that way, it can almost appeal to a certain type. I'd be curious what you guys think from an example standpoint. Like, think about the guys we're here for right now in Ravello. I think they're two of the warmest, most generous people we've ever met. But I think with these guys, as successful and as talented as they are, I'm not saying they would poo-poo somebody who is younger, but I think at the same time, I think they value some of that experience and maybe that like seasoned veteran attitude, that presence, especially think about you two. You're coming from this, national or international level of competition. They're like, oh, that guy's fucking legit. All right. So I think that helps. So, but to summarize, I'm going to probably end up pushing more than half of my business to the online. But I always, always, always want to maintain some kind of in-person, because number one, I love it, and I think number two, it'll help drive me to my own personal physical goals. But also, I truly believe in that. Like, if this is what I'm going to go all in on, in some way, shape, or form, I will stay all in on it. Like I don't ever want to be that guy who went from like, oh, he was a trainer for like 10 years and like, oh, I think he does real estate now.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the kind of the person I was kind of getting to, because we've seen that a ton. I've seen great trainers, like some excellent coaches who just get to a point. Burnout is one thing, but maybe they get in a relationship, maybe they do move, maybe something else life altering kind of puts them in a new direction. But we see people just kind of move on because maybe those same opportunities just aren't there anymore. And as you get older, every once in a while you get a client like Adam and Mike who are saying, we want that seasoned vet. But a lot of it is aesthetics too. I feel like there's a lot of comparisons to the mechanics of the world in terms of wanting someone who's good at what they do. But there's a look to it as well in terms of fitness. There's, I want to look aesthetically like that person. What are they doing? I want to try to follow the same plan. And you end up losing that a little bit as you get older. You have kids and other things kind of take priority a little bit. So maybe the clientele changes as you get older as well. But I'm just interested from your perspective, because in New York City, it is so much about like being in what's current in fitness. And you've always been kind of at the forefront of having a hand in a lot of different things. You were at Solace early on with us, a bunch of different gyms. You're doing NeoU stuff. I know you're at Gym in Hoboken now at Hudson River. You're just in so many different places that you're able to view it from a lot of different angles. So it's just good to be able to kind of see from your viewpoint what's happening right now within the fitness landscape, because I feel like New York is kind of the hub for the changes that we're seeing that end up emanating throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, maybe I'm biased, but I've always felt like if you could make it in New York, you could make it anywhere. But also, there's a ton of trainers there. I couldn't even put a ballpark number as to like how many trainers or people make their living in some capacity due to fitness.
How many are in their 40s, 50s, 60s?
That's a great question.
Most of them are probably young, gung-ho, want to open up a gym, want to start at, an Equinox or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like, this thing, you're wanting to shift some of your, or, at least a big percentage of your business into something that's scalable and remote and probably more brand identifiable. Mm-hmm. So like people will identify with your brand, and I think that's probably something we at Power Monkey relate to. Like as we get older and longer into how long Power Monkey's been around, we're looking even at who are the next generation of Power Monkey coaches that we want to mentor, that we want to move into our methods and advance our methods and grow. And I think even even talking to my wife Marie, she's like that. She's like, I'm not going to be young and attractive forever where people are just going to see something and trust it. Like all of us have to be aware of that.
Right.
Like having our methods, having our brand recognition, and then maybe bringing the next generation up through and having some partnership there. So I think like in New York, you've had friends that have said, okay, we're going to open a space, and then we're going to help trainers have a space, and then they're going to be the next face. That's difficult, but maybe there is a component of that on the digital side that we're all waiting to see come to the forefront.
Well, and I think there's a ton of different ways that you can stay relevant in this industry, and it could play maybe more to your age. So to your point, yeah, like maybe getting the new client dude you look great in a t-shirt versus mentoring, creating an education platform to help younger coaches be like, hey, I've done this. I'm in my 40s. I'm in my 50s. I maybe am not the man I once was in my 20s. Of course, why would I be? But I've made a legitimate career here. I've monetized this over the years. And not only have I monetized it, I've grown my personal life, and I haven't let that slip, as well as gained a little bit more in my professional life while still honoring my passion. So creating that future and being maybe a pioneer in that, letting people know that that's something you can do, I think that's part of it. And maybe that looks like educational courses. Maybe that looks like what you talked about, buying an actual brick and mortar space and cultivating a culture of how to start your personal training business. Maybe it looks like something of the places I went to where it's like you want to create an event where you're going to bring a bunch of trainers together. Maybe it looks like you're going to start to do a situation where you're like, I'm going to do investments in real estate, but fitness specific real estate, how to retrofit and consult on building out a gym. So I think as long as you're willing to hold fast to what you want to do and what you believe in, I think there's a lot of ways to leverage your experience and your skills to stay in it and appeal to you from ages 40, 50, 60, whatever the age is. And I think, maybe it's naive, maybe it's a little bit of like looking at the glass half full, but I think when I was a part-time, trainer when I first got out of college. I got my CPT in college, and I was like, oh, this is my get-rich-quick scheme. I'm going to work in corporate America, and I'm going to do a little part-time training, and I'll be a CrossFit coach who does the foundations program, and that's how I'll just make a ton of extra money. It's genius. And then you realize, I'm like, okay, I'm not making that much money, but at the same time, I don't hate that when I get out of the office, I'm still working and teaching, and like I actually love that. And then you find that you're with the person you're dating, a person who supports what you're doing, and you're like, shit, well, I guess I want to stick with this person, and I guess I also want to do this fitness thing more. And that's kind of how I pivoted and leveraged it. And ever since then, I was like, I'm never going to go back to it, not only because I love it, but I do have a little bit of chip on my shoulder that I'm like, no, I'm going to not only make it, but I want to make it and kind of compete with my friends who are chemical engineers, sales executives, social media tycoons, whatever fucking term you want to come up with. But that's something that, and I think we're both all competitive in that way, but like that's something that drives me as well. And I am willing to pivot, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the industry and the passion and the overall vision of like where I want to be and what I want to be doing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you took on with one of our buddies, Kenny Santucci, who our community knows well, and we've had on the podcast before, big personality in the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
You guys open up a gym, or you're a part of the gym in a pretty high level.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, it was basically like the start of the pandemic. It was like, I don't know if this was an ideal time to do it or the most batshit crazy time to do it, but you guys open up a brand new gym. I want to hear a little bit about what the experience has been for you so far, but then also some of the challenges that go along with, unique challenges that go along with trying to open up a gym and maintaining a gym in New York City.
So, yeah, I mean, I know everybody knows Ken. Ken's fantastic. He's been a great friend of mine, knows my family, I know his family, so we've had ups, downs, and all arounds, but always still have each other's back. He opened the gym, and he was great about, like, even if I wasn't a monetary partner, he was like, I want you involved, I trust what you do. If he's going to offer space for clients to rent space and have other trainers there, he's like, I want you to do your sessions because you can set an example for what the other trainers should do. I want you to be there to coach classes because I trust that you're going to execute the classes in the way that I want to execute classes, and I don't have to check your programming or do whatever you want to do. And be able to, am I going to do things the same way he does? No, but I can also appreciate his vision and kind of give him the vision that he wants to do to start that. So, but a little bit about that gym, I mean, he's another guy too where he doesn't want to, he's not going to take no for an answer, and he's all in on this. He's going to be 40 next year, and he's definitely not going to look back, and you won't find him on like a Century 21 billboard be like, check out this open house with Kenny Santucci. So he's not going to be in real estate. He's going to stick, and he's going to go all in. And what he's talked to me about is he wants to do more of these kinds of gyms. But in 20,
Before I move on, what's the name of the gym? Whereas people can know exactly where it's at.
Yeah, sorry. So the name of the gym is called Strength Club. It's in New York City on 28th Street, right off Fifth Avenue. It's 5th floor walk up. It is a very unique space. When you first walk in, you will be greeted by the tiniest Shar-Pei you've ever met. And there will be all sorts of textures in there. It's very cool. It is quite literally a club. There's a chance you might run into celebrities. There's a chance you might run into restaurant moguls. Who knows? But you're guaranteed to run into a very warm setting, amazing people, and there's truly that human connection of like interpersonal. If you're a personal trainer there, that's mostly what goes on. I'll have my sessions. Maybe Dave's there for the week. Dave has a session, or Ken has a session going on. We're not doing the same workouts, but like everybody knows everybody's name. It's like fucking Cheers. Mm-hmm. So you walk in there, and it's my clients knew what was going on with Kenny's World. When my clients were getting married. Congratulations, how are you? Like, it's not just like a passerby. It's like, I have a relationship with this person, and that vibe is amazing. It's great to walk into a place that kind of feels like home when it's not really where you sleep. But nonetheless, yeah, so the way this all kind of came to fruition, 2020 was a wild year in New York City. It was one of the only times, probably ever in history, where you could drive your car right up to like a club or a bar if they were open, and you could like literally pull up in front like it's the movies, walk out and like go into the club, you come out and your car's there in front. Like, anybody who's been to New York City knows that's not a reality ever. So that was very, very cool. But, we were scraping by.
One of the small positives of the pandemic.
Yeah.
If the club was open, you could pull up and
that's the big if. But if, we're scraping by doing stuff at parks and everything like that, and we found this awesome gym in Union Square called Hype Gym. Definitely have to give them a shout out because James is one of the coolest owners I ever met. I mean, this guy, shirt off your back type of dude, literally. But he gave Ken and I a place to bring our clients who were willing to be there, a place where we could pop our computers open and in between training and in person do there. We'd spend all day there. Mm-hmm. And then also a place where we could execute strong New York classes. Strong New York classes occur at the Strength Club, but we were running them at Height. So Ken's like, do you want to run some of these classes for me? So I run some of the classes for him. That helps him be able to do his personal training and all that. But after, the end of 2021, probably about a year ago, his buddy finds a space, and they're like, all right, if you're gonna do something, you want to open a gym. It's kind of now or never. So he took the risky move, and hats off to him for doing that. He had the courage to do it. Opened up the gym, did it, and we launched in October 1st. Actually, just the last Power Monkey camp I attended, I was there for like 36 hours, flew out, and did our first day at Strength Club. Mm-hmm. But opening that up was a numbers game. It was like, we're spending X, together at this gym at Hype to pay rent. Why pay rent to somebody, even if we do love the owner? Like, you could kind of make your own move. So, he took all that monetary burden on himself, but, I definitely he was great about letting me jump in and lets me use the space how I see fit, but also, trying to be respectful. So, I mean, if you're in New York City, it's a unique place. Check it out. Shameless plug there. But also at the same time, if you're a trainer in New York City and you want to rent a space and you want to just see like maybe a different way of how we execute things, check that out. But it was kind of a cool move overall because I'm proud of him that he did the risky play. And if you ever want to open a gym or do anything like that, you guys have been around enough gym owners and things like this, and you have an international business. There's a lot of people who are probably going to be in your ear and be like, no, don't do that. That's risky. Why would you do that? It's a pandemic. Like, gyms are never going to come back. The city's never going to be the same. And you kind of have to shush all that away, drown out the noise, and go with what your gut is and where your passion is. Because I think if you do something just based on, money, or I don't want to say rational thought, that is important. But if you do something just based on that, you're probably not going to get yourself to a point where you're happy to show up to that work every day. Mm-hmm. You're happy to show up and do that stuff every day. And I think that's kind of what Strength Club embodies. Is it's something that you want to do, you want to be at. It's been pretty amazing to see what's happened. We're definitely figuring things out. He's doing a great job of leveraging the brand opportunities and leveraging all the different clients we have, especially in a time where I think New York City fitness has certainly changed. As somebody who lived there, you've been there a million times. I mean, we worked at the same gym for a moment. It's not what it was, but there's still opportunity there. And I think that's what's important, and grasping to that opportunity and trying to, make the most of it and maybe even create new opportunities. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit about Strength Club. I mean, my mind goes in a million directions as soon as you bring up that name. I'm like, man, what isn't there to talk about with that place?
Sure. Yeah, I've been there a bunch, and you brought me in the first time when it was still just bare bones, showing me the space a couple years ago, and being like, this is going to turn into this. Like, okay. I was like, see where this thing actually ends up, and it's beautiful. It's an amazing gym, and I highly encourage anyone that goes to New York City to go and check it out. Not only is it a great place to train, but like you said, you're going to be welcomed by a warm set of trainers and a beautiful Sharpay at that first entrance. So, Mike, have you been there yet?
No, I haven't. I was supposed to. We had a layover one night, and I'll blame the grooms from here. They invited us to dinner, and we went to dinner instead of going to see Andrew at the gym. But just listening to Andrew talk about that, if the listeners are taking something from the whole conversation. And I think it can go across all walks of life. When you're doing something, I think there's just always this willingness to have an imagination, have a vision, but also be very patient. Being money motivated, there's nothing wrong with that, but if that's your main motivation, I think you're going to have a lot more roadblocks, and you're probably going to pivot more than you need to, as opposed to being willing to just let things develop. I mean, we're talking a lot about networking. Like, you just never know who you're going to be able to help and who's going to be able to help you, unless you put yourself in some of these like vulnerable situations where maybe you're creating new opportunities. It might not even be an opportunity for you. It might be one for somebody else that turns into one for you. And that's what I think within probably all of our walks in the fitness. It's the only reason why we're here.
Sure.
Because all of us, I guarantee not one of us 10 years ago had any idea that we would be anywhere where we are right now.
No, absolutely not.
But we just keep progressing through it, because if there's one thing, you're just going to keep going. And I think when you have a willingness to look at the glass half full, like Andrew said, kind of laughing, that's a good perspective to have in life. Like, you're just more able to roll with it, to go with the punches, and then I do think that good things end up happening to people in that scenario.
Any interest on you to open up your own space?
It's, there's definitely a time in my life where I would love to have one. This is going to sound weird to people. Like, I never want to leave the fitness industry. Hopefully that's clear. And I never want to stop being in front of people to some extent. That's clear as well. But I love being able to, the last time I was at Power Monkey Camp is a great example as to why I'm somewhat reticent to open up a gym. I was flying out to Seattle for an event. After that event, I went down and, leveraged some of my connections with, Legends, and went down to Legends, and then that's in LA, and then went from LA to Nashville. If you own your own gym, I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm like the type of dude that, I would be there until Lord knows what time, like going through the turf with a fine-tooth comb.
Sure.
Trying to, because I'm just an anal bastard like that. And, I don't know if that's something that I'm ready to do. If I did, there's some unique things I've thought about with the gentlemen here who we're celebrating. And then there's, I think there's a cool way to do it. Because I don't think every gym has to be a Globo gym or a CrossFit gym, as much as I grew up in those two places and they hold a special place in my heart. I think there's a unique way to do a gym that focuses maybe on education, a gym that focuses on the longevity aspect of fitness. Like, what's going to make this place, these four walls, stick around for a long time? It's not just because we got super good Nautilus and Rogue equipment. Maybe it's the people, it's the evolution of the people, it's the community, it's whatever that reason is, So, short answer, even though I was being avoidant there, at the moment, no.
There's a possibility.
There's a possibility.
If the unique circumstance arises. Now,
Well said.
You mentioned something in there that we touched on, but I've always known it uniquely in you and Kenny and some others in New York, the education side of things. And we're educators. Like, our whole thing is making sure that people understand good technique. Any listener probably knows that by now without too much issue. But you guys have always gone out of your way to try to educate yourselves as much as possible, meaning certifications, going to events, you come to camp all the time. You're always willing to learn and not always feeling like, I know I have all the answers. Mm-hmm. I know it, like, I have a program that works for my clients. It's sufficient. I'm good to go. I don't need anything else. First, am I right in that assessment that you feel like education is important for yourself? And why do you think that is, in terms of you're already doing well with clients, people love you, they love working with you, but why do you find education to be so important in terms of continuing to get those certifications to continue to be the forefront of what's out there on the fitness side?
I think there's a couple reasons, and thank you for that. I mean, cutting edge, you want to be on the cutting edge of knowledge, right? I want to be on the precipice of knowledge. I want to be able to give my clients more, learn those skills, be comfortable with those skills, really own them. And I think to really own a skill is to learn it and then teach it back to somebody. But, growing up, my dad was like still is like a massive bookworm. And like he had this quote, Dave's had a chance to meet my dad one time. He's kind of a nut
Great
job.
dude.
Great dude, tough.
We're going to get him out to camp at some point.
Well, he's definitely going to be in the woods somewhere. But he had this quote in his office in our basement. And it's funny because we had an unfinished basement. You've got like rafters exposed, concrete floor, maybe there's some crickets floating around, whatever. But in a frame, because my mom does framing, he has this quote framed, "Knowledge is power." And he loves that quote, and he truly believes that like you should be able to teach yourself anything to really empower and grow yourself. So, and I think that's relevant to, I have to make a movie reference with you.
Do it.
Good Will Hunting. What's the scene where they're at the bar and he's like, how does it feel to spend, $400,000 on an education that I got at the Boston Public Library for $1 a month? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that really happens, but at the same time, the reason you go to these certs is that knowledge is powerful. Just even if you don't teach back those skills, it makes me feel confident in what I'm doing. It's a networking opportunity as well. And I think, you gotta love to do that stuff. Complacency is gonna be the enemy in any and all industries. So if I start thinking like, man, I know fucking everything, I'm done. I should go be a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. But if I think I have something to learn from, then I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm following my passion. I'm not monetarily motivated. Don't get me wrong, I like nice things. But at the same time, I'm not just driving force for money. And then also the other aspect of why you want to continue to do education, other than just wanting to be at the forefront of knowledge and everything like that, is the aspect of, I'm blanking out on it right now, but, you want to be able to also, to network, like I said. I'm probably going to blank out on this last point, but network, like I said, be at the forefront of education. Knowledge is power. I guess I'll leave it at that, and maybe at some point I'll have to come back with you guys for it. It's such a damn good one. This Italian heat's getting in my head. But
It'll come back to it.
It'll come back, but there was another good reason. Non-stop, though. I'm never going to stop doing the education because I think it's a must, right? Like you have to always love to do what you want to do, and you have to. Complacency is going to always be the enemy there. And
I think too, Andrew. Maybe that'll round out what you're saying. If you're expecting people to learn from you, but you're not willing to learn from others,
that is
like how can you really be authentic in what you're doing? And you are. So like you show that.
That's Mike. You nailed it. See, you read my mind. It's a coach.
See that?
There we go.
If you're not willing as a coach to hire or have other coaches, how can I, in my good conscience, be like, hey man, you should definitely pay X amount of money to have me coach you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another reason you do education there, is to you need that humility in your life, because I think sometimes we can all kind of get gassed up and be like, man, I know everything, I'm doing great. And, I think that brings you back down to earth, and it also helps you, reset your belief system. Mm-hmm. So that might be the biggest piece, to be honest.
I love that. I think we can end with that in terms of the education side, but now I just want to talk about New Jersey a little bit. Sorry, Mike. No.
I would like to throw one thing in before Dave does New Jersey. I just feel like we've attacked the real estate agents out there throughout this episode, and I have some
real estate agents.
I have some really close friends that got into real estate, and I'm very thankful for them.
Oh, Mike, you're so kind.
Yeah,
I don't think we said anything disparaging about
not
real estate
negative.
agents.
I think what we were saying is if you're a fitness trainer, you're probably not skilled to be a real estate agent, and you should stick to what you're doing and get through there. But okay, back to Jersey now.
We love real estate agents, especially in this market. New Jersey. We know each other from Jersey. We're both Italian American, grew up in Jersey. They're out of the whatever number of people here at this wedding, I'd say at least 50% of them are from our area.
Minimum. Yeah.
What's your favorite New Jersey-based movie?
Damn. My New Jersey. So the movie must take place in Jersey.
New Jersey, yes. Or how about this? The actor from New Jersey.
Oh, I mean the late great Ray Liotta.
Number one?
Only because he was the star of my favorite movie of all time, Goodfellas.
It's a phenomenal movie. It's my favorite movie as well.
I think it's somebody actually asked. So we're on a bus. This is such a Jersey conversation. Also, too, for anybody listening, the whole reason I say fuck, or as Mike feels I was targeting real estate agents. number one, Mike's way nicer than I could ever hope to be. But number two, that's just kind of like how I talk, probably a little bit how Dave taught that sense of humor. Like, nobody's getting fucking attacked. I'm just making a point. So, but we were on the bus and this one woman goes, she's like, I've never seen The Godfather. So everybody on the bus is like, oh my God.
Last night they were talking about it. Yeah.
And then he's like, what about Goodfellas? She's like, what's Goodfellas?
Oh
my God. I was like, get off the fucking bus. But to me, this Goodfellas is more important than Godfather. And Godfather's, it might as well be in core curriculum in New Jersey education. But that's Ray Liotta's top notch for me. What is yours? I probably could think of it, but
Sinatra. Maybe not an actor, but I mean just the icons that come out of the state. Mike, I mention to you all the time. I know you hate it because the difference between New York and Ohio, New Jersey and Ohio is you have your John Mellencamp's, you have a couple of coaches and things like that.
A couple of real estate agents.
But New Jersey is just especially unique, especially with the size. Just some special people like this guy right here that come out of New Jersey. So I love you like family, man. It's nice to be able to hang out like this and get you on the podcast. For those of you listening, Andrew actually was my roommate for a couple of years in New York City too. We shared an apartment on the Upper East Side and got to know each other quite well. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of that place as you have been moving up into better places. Back into the Jersey side now. Jersey. Yeah, absolutely. But
that's a whole podcast unto itself, talking about Jersey.
I know. Part two.
I think part two would be just Andrew describing moving out of your apartment and
that's process. An episode. Yeah, that might be just an episode by itself.
We could leave a cliffhanger there.
Yeah.
This is my best story I've ever told in my life.
Best day of your life. Now that it's over. A couple more quick questions. What sport discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Fuck.
No pressure.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting, and I'm gonna truly, in true, I think, my fashion, even though Mike is grabbing me forcefully. I think the way I want to answer this is like I'm probably better at weightlifting just because I'm 5 foot tall, and
like a cinder block.
Yeah, I'm very wide. Pants are tough, so I enjoy squatting, but there's something that I've always really liked about gymnastics, especially like growing up in a CrossFit setting. I loved going into workouts and being able to be competent or proficient in gymnastics because more people have a harder time with it. So it would give me a competitive advantage. And, if you didn't catch this the first 6 times, I'm a pretty competitive guy. So I want to be able to, I wanted to always be able to separate myself.
But you can say weightlifting, it's alright.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer there. I want to do both.
There's been a few diplomatic answers Mike actually didn't even say weightlifting when we asked him on the podcast. So diplomatic answers are fine. That was actually probably the most eloquent diplomatic answer that we received. So we'll give a half point to each. Chad has been keeping tabs, and now Mike as well. I think we're pretty still far ahead on the gymnastics side, but we'll give half a point on each for that one. Books. Any books or TV shows you come across lately that you'd recommend?
Okay, well, so I'll do TV shows first because books, I guess, can be a little more serious and I could go down a rabbit hole there. So books, or TV shows rather, this is a Jersey show. This is actually what I thought of. We were talking about it the other night. What's the...
Yellow Jackets?
Yellow Jackets.
Oh, all right.
Love Yellow Jackets. We had a very deep conversation, and maybe the listeners can chime in on a poll or something. I think there's some supernatural undertones there. Some of my friends who are also from Jersey don't think so. They think it's really just an allegory for like Lord of the Flies. But
what channel was it on? Showtime?
It's on Showtime. The way I found it was my Amazon Prime, and then like it was one of like the like a digital billboard suggested, and it was like $9 to be on Showtime. So I now pay the $9 even though the show has not aired a new episode for about 4 or 5 months. But I'm ready.
All right. We'll put it on the agenda.
Highly recommend that. Yeah. And then from a book standpoint, one that always comes to mind, I actually learned about this book from an event I mentioned earlier in the podcast from Luca's Vigor Ground Summit. And I think it goes well for what we were talking about. There's a great restaurateur, right? So it has nothing to do with fitness. Danny Myers, most people will know him from, Shake Shack, right? Like there's your bread and butter. If that's all I said, then that'd be great. But if you're ever in New York, I don't think they've opened back up actually after the pandemic, but in my opinion, it's probably top shelf Italian food in New York. It's called Mylino, right near Gramercy Park, very cool area of the city. But he wrote a book, and a lot of it is about customer service and hospitality. It's called Setting the Table. So if you're a coach or you're somebody who wants to, delve into getting better at your interpersonal skills, and maybe you're not quite ready for improv yet, but this book, Setting the Table, really puts in perspective, a customer-facing job, a customer-facing career, how to serve. Because whether you're a coach, whether you're a real estate agent, or whether you are a restaurateur, that's an integral skill. I think it's integral for anybody. You can be a stay-at-home parent. That's a must. So that's a book that always keeps coming back.
I love that one. I think that's one that we should all read, especially
You read that one?
I haven't, but I really like that one. Normally we get a lot of the same suggestions when we ask that question. That's a new one for us, but I think we are in the hospitality business in a lot of ways. Whether it be our camp or a retreat or even just a weekend clinic, we have to basically have the similar skills that you're talking about that Danny probably speaks about in that book.
And you guys definitely, you think about camp, you really are in hospitality because it's like, how unique is that? It's not like a weekend cert, and I know you guys do those too, but where you get to go home or you leave for lunch, you're eating meals with the same coaches. Your daughters are there, your wife is there, your wife is there sometimes too. It's,
we clean toilets, we make beds.
Yeah.
We do it all.
You're getting in an in-depth look at, you're immersed in that person's life. And to be honest with you, how do you not come back to that? You're like, fuck, I'm kind of tight with their family now. That's why we're going to Pia de Cuba.
Exactly. Yeah. So for those of you listening, from here, unfortunately the wedding festivities are over, but we've become so close within the Power Monkey crew that I get to take a good number of them to my family village, where both my families are from. My dad was born there, and it'll be the first time we take some Power Monkey team out there. Actually, Mike, you've been there a few years ago, and I think Mike enjoys the spot. So we're in the middle of nowhere, but maybe we'll do another podcast from out there and just tell everybody how remote and how unique of a place it can be out in the middle of the woods.
Only imagine how good my Italian is going to be there.
Yeah, you got about 4 words. What are you saying?
I made a couple up too.
Yeah.
E cosa faluce?
Yeah, Papa de Beppo.
Yeah, there's a lot of Peter Griffin Italian stuff in there in just a couple days. Andrew, thanks for the time today, man.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. We can get a chance to hang out again in New York sometime soon. We'll come back to the Strength Club, bring Mike along, bring Jordan along, bring the rest of the Power Monkey team. But thanks for the time. For all of you listening out there, please go to PowerMonkeyFitness.com for more information. You can follow us along at PowerMonkeyFitness on Instagram, at Mike Service and at Dave Durante. For myself and my co-host Mike Service, we are Power Monkey, and we will see you next time.
Ciao.